A woman was sleeping soundly in her seat when a sudden voice boomed through the aircraft speakers. "Is there a fighter pilot on board?" The trembling plea from co-pilot James Wilson shattered the cabin's uneasy silence. Panic spread like wildfire as passengers gripped their armrests. Outside, lightning carved the sky, and the Boeing 747 bucked violently in a storm no one had ever seen before. "Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Mitchell is unconscious. We need immediate assistance." The storm roared, the plane shook, and hopelessness filled the air. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss incredible stories of courage, resilience, and unexpected heroes. In row 23C, Kesha Washington stirred awake. At 34, her body had been trained to rest anywhere, even amid chaos. Years in combat zones had carved discipline into her bones. Her simple jeans and blouse made her invisible in the crowd, but her sharp eyes revealed the steel of someone who had faced death before. Nearby, Richard Blackwood, a wealthy businessman, sneered. "As if anyone with military aviation experience would be sitting in economy," he muttered. Children cried, prayers filled the air, and some passengers typed desperate farewell messages to loved ones. The situation grew darker with every second. The co-pilot's broken voice cracked again. "Please, anyone with combat aviation training, identify yourself now. We are flying blind through a Category 5 storm." "I've never done this alone." Richard stood tall in first class, puffing his chest. "My brother-in-law is a private pilot. I've flown with him dozens of times. I can help." His arrogance dripped with entitlement, but a flight attendant shook her head. "Sir, civilian training isn't enough," Richard barked back. "I paid $15,000 for these seats. I have more experience than anyone here." Kesha stood quietly, her movements calm, deliberate, cutting through the storm of panic. She walked forward, and with a voice that silenced the cabin, she spoke. "Colonel Kesha Washington, United States Air Force. 500 hours in F-22 Raptors. Expert in extreme navigation." Richard's jaw dropped. "You've got to be kidding." But passengers turned to her, some with skepticism, others with hope. Without hesitation, she rattled off emergency procedures, her words so precise, so detailed, that only the most highly trained pilots could know them by heart. Silence spread through the cabin. The co-pilot's eyes widened with relief. "Ma'am, the cabin is yours," Richard sputtered. "Anyone can memorize facts. She doesn't belong here." But the truth was undeniable. Every word, every movement, every ounce of calm in Kesha screamed authority born from fire. "Mr. Blackwood," she said softly, "there are pilots who fly when it's easy, pilots who fly when it's hard, and pilots who fly when it's impossible. I am the third kind." The aircraft jolted violently, but Kesha didn't flinch. "I've flown through war zones with 2 engines gone, no navigation, and missiles on my tail. And I brought everyone home." She turned toward the cockpit. Richard's protest died in his throat. The woman he dismissed was about to save his life. James Wilson froze at the controls, his captain convulsing beside him. The storm battered the aircraft, alarms screamed, and chaos bled into every corner of the cockpit. But when Kesha entered, the atmosphere shifted. She checked the captain's vitals with the precision of someone who had treated soldiers under fire. "He's in danger of cardiac arrest. 15 minutes at most." Her voice carried no panic, only command. "Colonel, how do you know so much about medicine?" James asked, hands trembling. 10 years of rescue missions in hostile zones," she replied, adjusting instruments mid-sentence. "When you're the only thing between a soldier and death, you learn fast." Meanwhile, Richard poisoned first class with his sneers. "Did you see her clothes? Qualified people don't travel like that. She's no pilot." His wife Victoria finally snapped. "Richard, stop it. You're humiliating yourself." But Richard doubled down, trying to convince others they were doomed. His arrogance was deafening, until Kesha's calm voice broke through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Colonel Washington. I am assuming command of this flight until we reach safety. Remain calm. Follow crew instructions. Her voice wasn't one of persuasion. It was the voice of someone who had always been obeyed. Even Richard felt an involuntary chill. Then she did the impossible. Instead of skirting the storm, she charted a path straight through it, calculating a trajectory that defied every commercial aviation manual. "Colonel, with respect, this isn't protocol," James warned. "James," she answered, her eyes locked on the storm. "Sometimes following the rules kills people. The best pilots know when to break them." The cabin door swung open. Richard had forced his way inside. "This is madness. She's gambling with our lives." Before he could rant further, a calm voice rose from behind him. Dr. Patricia Chun, a neurosurgeon, stepped forward. "I've treated pilots in military hospitals. This woman is exactly who you want in that seat. Trust her." Kesha didn't waste time. "James, switch to military emergency frequency 121.5. Her steady voice filled the radio. "Colonel Washington, call sign Spectre, requesting confirmation for civil emergency." The response came instantly. "Spectre, this is Commander Rodriguez, Andrews Air Force Base. The entire Air Force is mobilized looking for you. Thank God you're alive." The cabin fell silent. Richard's face turned pale. The woman he mocked wasn't just a pilot. She was a legend. The storm outside intensified into an apocalyptic nightmare. Baseball-sized hail pummeled the plane. Winds screamed like banshees, and lightning stitched the skies. Andrews Air Force Base relayed grim news. Every airport was closing. Kesha's 747 was the only aircraft still in the air. Panic rippled through passengers, but in the cockpit, Kesha remained unshaken. "James, monitor vertical speed. We're attempting a spiral descent through the eye of the storm." "Colonel, that's impossible for a jet this size." Kesha smiled faintly. "In Afghanistan, 2 engines gone, sandstorm visibility 0, missiles firing at us. We were told it was impossible too. Yet 17 soldiers came home that night. Watch me." The Boeing tilted into a controlled spiral, descending at a rate that would terrify any pilot. Lightning danced around the aircraft, but the 747 held firm. "My God," James whispered. "How are you keeping her stable?" Physics and 17 years of experience making the impossible possible. Military command confirmed her identity across the airwaves. Generals addressed her by her call sign, Spectre, recalling missions where she had guided crippled aircraft to safety with nothing but radio instructions. Even hardened soldiers spoke of her with reverence. Passengers realized they weren't in the hands of a mere pilot. They were in the hands of a living legend. In first class, Richard collapsed into his seat, pale and trembling. His arrogance was shattered. His life, the life of his wife, his children, every soul on board, now rested with the woman. The spiral descent pierced the storm's heart, and slowly, impossibly, the turbulence eased. Baltimore and Dover prepared emergency runways. Ambulances waiting. Kesha guided the 747 with surgical precision. Her hands steady, her voice calm. Passengers held their breath as the wheels screeched against foam-soaked asphalt. With one final jolt, the plane touched down safely. The cabin erupted into cheers, tears, and prayers of gratitude. 6 months later, Kesha Washington stood at the Pentagon, promoted to Brigadier General, the youngest black woman in U.S. history to earn the title. Her storm navigation technique was added to training manuals worldwide. Universities created programs in her honor. Her book, Flying Through the Storms, became a bestseller, with all profits funding aviation scholarships. She had become more than a pilot. She was a symbol. Meanwhile, Richard Blackwood's downfall was brutal. His insults during the flight leaked online, viewed by millions. His firm collapsed, his wife divorced him, and his children asked why strangers spat at his name. Once obsessed with privilege, he now sold used cars, passing daily beneath a billboard of Kesha in uniform. Leadership has no color, it has character. Years later, they crossed paths at an airport. Richard, broken, muttered an apology. Kesha studied him, her eyes calm, her posture regal. "Mr. Blackwood, you didn't destroy me. You reminded me why I do what I do. Your prejudice fueled my purpose." And with that, she walked away, her legacy towering above his ruins. Success had been her ultimate revenge. While others wasted energy doubting her, she had built a legacy impossible to ignore. As she told cadets at the Air Force Academy, "While they underestimate you, you spend that time becoming unforgettable." And if you believe in stories that prove greatness never asks permission to shine, subscribe now and join us for more tales of courage and justice.